Get out!
Revenge Files with Nora.
File 8. Emily. When Nexus Digital's new VP fired me for being resistant to change, he had no idea I held the patent on the algorithm that processed every transaction in their $890 million platform. By Tuesday, their entire system was breaking down. 3 major clients pulled contracts worth $210 million. The board demanded answers, and Marcus Whitfield, the man who'd called me legacy baggage, was begging for my help. I didn't answer. Not because I was being petty, because I was being precise. Every hour of silence cost them $230,000 in processing delays. Every unanswered call reminded Marcus that expertise isn't something you can fire and replace. Here's what satisfying destruction sounds like. I'd been at Nexus Digital for 7 years, joined when they were 40 employees crammed into a Chelsea co-working space, sharing one bathroom and dreaming of enterprise clients. Built their back-end architecture from scratch, wrote the proprietary algorithm that made their platform faster than anything else on the market. My morning ritual back then: 6 a.m. coffee at the Bodega on 23rd Street, subway to Chelsea, first one in the office. I'd write code until noon, debug until 6, document until midnight. Weekends were for architecture reviews. Holidays were for deployments. I'd given Nexus everything. My 20s. A marriage that couldn't survive my schedule. 3 apartments, each one smaller than the last because I was never home anyway. My ex-husband used to joke that I was married to the database. He wasn't entirely wrong. By the time Marcus Whitfield arrived, Nexus had grown to 300 employees, occupied 2 floors in a midtown tower with views of the Empire State Building, and processed $890 million in annual client transactions. I was senior software architect, the person everyone called at 2 a.m. when systems failed, the one who knew where every line of code lived, why it existed, and what would break if you touched it. My desk sat in the corner of the engineering floor. No window, no status. Just proximity to the server room because that's where problems got solved. My desk was pathetic when it came to decoration. I never kept anything on it that would take my time except for my work. That desk showed how my soul had been taken over by my job. Marcus was the new VP of engineering. Columbia MBA, ex-Amazon. The kind of executive who used words like synergy and paradigm shift without irony. He had that particular confidence that comes from expensive education and never being told no, pressed shirts even in August. You might think I was judging him harshly, but he didn't have the posture of someone who debugged code at 3 a.m. while eating cold pizza over a keyboard. His first week, he scheduled a meeting with my team. Didn't introduce himself, just sat at the head of the table, spread his hands flat on the surface like he was claiming territory, and said, "I've been reviewing the code base. It's bloated, outdated, we need to modernize." What he was saying meant nothing concrete, had no basis. I couldn't help myself. I asked, "Which part specifically?" He looked at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language, like the question itself was an insult. "The backend," he said. "The whole thing. The backend processes 14 million transactions daily," I replied. "0 downtime in 3 years. What exactly needs modernizing?" His jaw tightened. The room went quiet. My colleague Sarah stared at her laptop like it contained urgent business. Someone coughed. "I'll send you a list," Marcus said finally. He never sent the list. But I understood the message. I'd challenged him publicly. In his world, that was unforgivable. Marcus had a tell. He never read technical documentation. Ever. If you have a Marcus in your work life, you know exactly what I mean. I'd watched him approve architecture changes without opening the spec sheets. Sign off on security protocols he didn't understand. Nod along in code reviews while clearly thinking about something else, probably his next meeting, his next win, his next promotion. He trusted systems he couldn't explain. He didn't make any effort to understand them either. Maybe he was worried it would shadow his perfect image. That was going to be expensive. Over the next 4 months, Marcus systematically dismantled everything I'd built. He brought in Jordan Reeves, his former colleague from Amazon, and gave him authority over architecture decisions. Jordan was 29, ambitious, and had never built a system at Nexus's scale. He wore sneakers to board meetings and called everything fire or slaps. In his first week, Jordan asked, why we couldn't just migrate everything to the cloud by Q2. I'd explained our platform handled real-time financial transactions. Latency spikes meant millions in client losses. Cloud migration required 18 months of architecture redesign minimum. I'd drawn diagrams, shown dependency charts, explained technical debt. Jordan had nodded, then sent a Slack to the team, exploring aggressive cloud timeline. Target, Q2. That's when I knew. He didn't understand our database schema, didn't know why certain functions existed. Asked questions in meetings that revealed he'd never read the documentation. I'd spent 3 years writing documentation that was comprehensive, organized, and literally on the shared drive with his name in the permissions. But Marcus loved him. Jordan agreed with everything Marcus said. That was his primary qualification. I watched them make decisions that would eventually break the platform. It was painful. I watched Jordan approve changes without understanding their downstream effects. Watched Marcus sign off on timelines that ignored technical debt. I couldn't protect it, but I documented everything. Every email, every Slack conversation, every meeting where I'd flagged risks and been overruled, not because I was planning revenge, because my brother taught me, paper remembers what people forget. Do you use similar sayings? By month 5, the cracks were showing, small bugs. Latency spikes, client complaints that got explained away as temporary issues. Crestline Investment Group, our biggest client, $89 million contract, had called twice about processing delays. Their VP of operations used phrases like unacceptable performance degradation and breach of SLA. Sterling Healthcare Systems threatened to audit our security protocols. Compliance issues, data processing delays, potential IPO concerns that could cost millions in fines. Northgate Distribution put their contract under review. Their CTO sent an email CCing half the industry. We're evaluating alternatives. I flagged each one, sent detailed reports to Marcus with subject lines like critical, database integrity risk, and urgent, a PI authentication vulnerability. Marcus's response every time, noted, Jordan's handling it. Jordan wasn't handling it. In fact, quite the opposite, he was creating new problems while ignoring existing ones. In one meeting, I watched him explain the source code to a client incorrectly. He described our encryption protocol as industry standard when it was actually proprietary. When I corrected him, he said, same thing. You know how impossible it is to explain something to someone who doesn't understand. I tried, then stayed quiet, documented the exchange, added it to my growing file. The patent was something I'd filed years ago. When Nexus was still small and scrappy, I developed a compression algorithm that made our data processing 40% faster than competitors. Revolutionary at the time. Still unmatched. The idea had come to me on a Saturday night, alone in the Chelsea office, VS Code open across 3 monitors, debugging a latency issue that had stumped the team for weeks. The building was empty. Just me and the hum of servers and the distant sound of Greenwich Village traffic. By Sunday morning, I had a working prototype. By Monday, I'd filed for patent protection. This was my right. By Thursday, I'd integrated it into our core system. The company's lawyer had helped me navigate the process. Standard arrangement, I retained ownership of the intellectual property. Nexus received a perpetual, royalty-free license to use it while I was employed. Section 7.3 of my employment contract, licensed IP, reverts to inventor upon termination of employment for any reason. I'd written that clause myself. The lawyer had raised an eyebrow but approved it. You're never going to leave, he'd said, chuckling. Why does it matter? I'm so glad I added that clause back then, because it mattered now and the impossible was about to become possible. Beyond feeling it, I could see it. Friday afternoon, 4:47 p.m. Conference room C, the room had glass walls. Everyone on the floor could see inside, could watch what was about to happen. I'd always hated that room. The first person I saw was Marcus. He was sitting at the head of the table like he owned it. A woman named Patricia from HR was also there. She had never learned my name despite 7 years of company parties. Jordan was conspicuously absent, probably already moving into my office and rearranging my things. He definitely wouldn't struggle with that, I thought. Emily, we've decided to make some organizational changes. Marcus's voice was flat. Rehearsed. He'd practiced this in front of a mirror. Your position is being eliminated. Eliminated, I repeated. The word tasted strange, foreign, like something that happened to other people in news articles about layoffs. We're moving in a new direction, modernizing, we need people who embrace change. I've been here 7 years. I built the systems you're trying to modernize. Exactly. He smiled. It wasn't a genuine smile. A smile that communicated nothing. A smile that existed only to fill space where actual emotions should be. We appreciate your contributions, but Nexus needs fresh perspective. Fresh perspective. Translation, Jordan. Translation, someone who doesn't ask questions. Translation, someone who doesn't make me feel stupid in meetings by knowing more than I do. The severance package is generous, HR added. Patricia, still not using my name. 2-month salary. Extended benefits. Positive reference. She slid papers across the table. Severance agreement. Non-compete. Standard exit package. The same papers they probably gave everyone. Isn't that obvious from the name? Impersonal. Efficient. Take the weekend to review, she said. Sign by Monday. Marcus extended his hand. Professional courtesy. Corporate theater. The whiteness of his shirt showing from his jacket sleeve blinded my eyes. I stared at it. 7 years. Thousands of late nights. The divorce I'd never fully processed because work was easier than grief. Every system that made the platform valuable systems he couldn't explain, couldn't replicate, couldn't function without. This handshake was supposed to make it civil, but it was fake. That's exactly why I didn't take his hand. Emily, good luck, Marcus, I stood. You're going to need it. I meant it as a statement of fact. He took it as a threat and shook his head judgmentally. He should have taken it as a prophecy. I took the papers, walked back to my desk, packed my laptop, my notebook, and a few technical books. Sarah, my junior engineer, caught me in the hallway. Her eyes were wet. Emily, I'm sorry. I should have said something in the meeting. Hey. I softened my voice. You're 6 months in, you stay quiet. That's how you survive. But I had 7 years of runway. You don't. Keep your head down, document everything. And when you have leverage, I paused. Use it. She nodded. Hugged me quickly, brief, fierce, disappeared back to her desk before Marcus could notice. I walked past his glass-walled office. He watched. Arms crossed. Satisfied smile. I kept walking, didn't look back. Some exits don't need acknowledgement. I sat in my car for 20 minutes. Hands on the wheel. Engine off. 7 years. 2,500 days. Weekends sacrificed. A marriage dissolved. Vacations canceled because systems needed me more than I needed rest. Gone in 12 minutes. The parking garage was cold. Winter in Manhattan. My breath fogged the windshield. Somewhere above me, the city hummed and honked and lived, indifferent to the fact that my professional identity had just evaporated. I thought about calling my ex-husband. Not for comfort, we'd been done for 3 years, but because he'd understand. He'd left me because I couldn't stop working. Now the work had left me. When I realized the irony, I decided not to call. Even if he was right, hearing it from him was the last thing I needed. I had calmed down by the time I started the engine. I headed toward my Park Slope apartment. 5th floor walk up. No elevator, thighs burning by the top. This time it felt like 10 floors. Character building, the landlord called it. I called it $2,800 a month for cardio. I poured a glass of wine. I thought about sleeping for a bit but decided against it. It was clear that going into shutdown mode wouldn't help me. I sat on the floor, leaning my back against the couch. I opened my laptop on the coffee table and started reading my employment contract. Section 7.3 was exactly where I remembered it. Licensed IP reverts to inventor upon termination of employment for any reason. I read it 3 times, then I called my brother Jonathan. He'd been a patent attorney for 12 years, living in Connecticut with his wife and 3 children. He saw law as architecture structures and loopholes, load-bearing clauses and decorative language. Hey Jonathan, I need you to look at something. Emmy, it's 11 p.m. I know, I'm home, I got fired today. Silence. A long exhale, the sound of him getting up, probably walking to his home office. Then send me the documents. We spent 3 hours on Zoom. He reviewed my patent filing, my employment contract, the licensing agreement. This clause, he said, highlighting section 7.3. You wrote this years ago when I first developed the algorithm, and legal approved it. They didn't read it carefully. I was a loyal employee. Why would I ever leave? He smiled, not cruelly. Appreciatively. The way he smiled when he found an elegant solution to a complex problem. His words put me at ease. They just handed you a nuclear weapon, sis, and they don't even know it. The patent U.S. Patent 108473992B2 covered the core compression algorithm that powered Nexus's entire transaction processing system. Without it, their platform couldn't function. Not slowly. Not with degraded performance. It simply wouldn't work. Every API call, every database query, every client transaction, all of it ran through my algorithm, the source code that made Nexus fast, reliable, valuable. And as of 4:47 p.m. Friday, their license to use it had expired. Saturday was for processing, the emotional aftermath that hits when adrenaline fades. I went for a run through Prospect Park at dawn. The air was cold, sharp, early morning in Brooklyn. My breath came in white puffs as I circled the lake. Other joggers passed weekend warriors, dog walkers, parents with strollers, normal Saturday life. I tried to outpace my thoughts. Couldn't. 7 years of identity, compressed into your position, is being eliminated. Who was I without Nexus? I'd introduced myself at conferences as Emily Fitzgerald, Senior Architect at Nexus Digital. What did I say now? What did anyone say when the thing that defined them disappeared? Have you ever experienced this? The run didn't help, but it tired me enough to stop spiraling. Jonathan called that afternoon. Do you want me to come? Not yet, I'll let you know. He sent a GIF of someone dramatically flipping a table. He knew me well. Saturday night, my best friend Michelle showed up with Thai food and zero sympathy. We'd been friends since college. 20 years. She was one of 3 people who had my apartment key, the kind of friend who shows up without being asked. So, fired. She poured wine without asking, set containers of pad thai on my coffee table. Terminated, big difference. That's nonsense. She handed me a glass. What's the plan? Justice. Legal justice or petty justice? The kind that costs them money. She clinked her glass against mine. My favorite. We ate in comfortable silence. Michelle didn't offer advice, didn't try to fix anything, didn't suggest I look on the bright side or use this as an opportunity. Just sat with me in the mess. I guess that's why we're still friends, I thought. Sunday was for strategy. I spread documents across my kitchen table. Patent filings, employment contract, licensing agreement, Jonathan's notes from our phone call, printouts of every email I'd sent flagging risks, screenshots of Slack conversations where Marcus had dismissed my concerns. The math was simple. Nexus processed $890 million in annual client transactions. My algorithm was the backbone of that processing. Without a valid license, every transaction they processed was patent infringement. Under federal patent law, any company that continues using patented technology after their license expires is committing infringement. Every single transaction. Statutory damages, up to $150,000 per willful violation. 14 million transactions daily. Do the math. I had already started calculating. Sunday night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open. The email was drafted. Professional. Polite. Devastating. Subject. Notice of IP license termination, U.S. Patent 108473992B2. To Nexus Digital Legal Department. This letter serves as formal notice that the licensing agreement for U.S. Patent 108473992B2, governing the proprietary compression algorithm currently utilized in Nexus Digital's transaction processing system, has been terminated effective Friday at 4:47 p.m., concurrent with my involuntary separation from employment. Per Section 7.3 of my employment contract, all licensed intellectual property reverts to the inventor upon termination of employment for any reason. Continued use of the patented algorithm without a valid license constitutes willful infringement, subject to statutory damages of up to $150,000 per violation. I am prepared to discuss licensing arrangements at your earliest convenience. Respectfully, Emily Fitzgerald, Patent Holder, U.S. Patent 108473992B2. After the necessary checks, my finger hovered over send. Part of me wanted to call Marcus, warn him, tell him what was coming, not because I owed him anything I didn't, but because 7 years of building systems had wired me to protect infrastructure, not destroy it. The other part, the part that had been called legacy baggage, in front of HR wanted to watch him panic. Part of me said, is all this really necessary? There must be a way to handle this without making a scene. Maybe negotiate privately first. Give them a chance to fix this quietly. The angry other part of me said, they're the ones who made a scene and chose this path. They didn't give you a chance. What they gave you was a 12-minute unfair dismissal meeting. I thought about Jordan Reeves sitting in my chair, Marcus's satisfied smile as I walked past his office. 7 years dismissed as organizational restructuring. Michelle's voice echoed, the kind that costs them money. I hit send at 11:47 p.m. By Monday morning, everything would change. And Marcus Whitfield was about to learn the difference between authority and expertise. One comes with a title, the other comes with a patent. Monday morning. The weekend was over, I was ready. I'd spent the weekend oscillating between doubt and determination. Doubt won some hours, determination won the war. By Sunday evening, I wasn't angry anymore. I was methodical. Marcus had fired me because he thought I was an obstacle. Replaceable. A line item to cut without consequence. He was about to learn that some costs aren't visible on spreadsheets. Here's what I knew. Nexus couldn't function without my algorithm. Every transaction, every API call, every database query ran through my compression protocol. Without it, their latency would spike by 40%. Processing time would triple. Clients would notice within hours, and they were still running it. Every second since Friday at 4:47 p.m., every transaction since then was infringement. My phone rang at 8:47 a.m. Marcus's number. I let it ring. Watched my screen light up, counted the rings. 5, then voicemail. He called again at 9:12 a.m., again at 9:45 a.m., again at 10:03 a.m. By noon, I had 11 missed calls. I answered none of them. Jonathan called at 1 p.m. They've contacted their legal team. Someone reached out to a colleague of mine, fishing for information about patent law. Good. Emmy, they're panicking. The general counsel called the partner who handles IP disputes. This is moving fast. Let it move. Are you sure about this approach? There's still time to John. I cut him off gently. I spent 7 years building something. They threw me out in 12 minutes, I'm sure. Silence. Then, okay, I trust you. That afternoon, Nexus's legal department sent a formal response to my email, professional but nervous. You could read the fear between the lines. Ms. Fitzgerald, we acknowledge receipt of your notice regarding U.S. Patent 108473, 92B2. However, we believe there may be some misunderstanding regarding the terms of your separation and the licensing arrangements currently in place. We would welcome the opportunity to discuss this matter directly and reach an amicable resolution. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience. Regards. Nexus Digital Legal Affairs. Translation, we're terrified. Please don't destroy us. I didn't respond immediately. Let them wait. Let the silence stretch. Marcus's calls continued. 14 by end of business Monday. I blocked his number. Tuesday morning, the first system alert triggered. I heard about it from Sarah, my former junior engineer. She texted, platform lagging. Jordan's freaking out. Marcus called an emergency meeting. The algorithm wasn't just running their system. It was running their system efficiently. Without proper licensing, any modifications they attempted would risk everything. And Jordan, in his infinite wisdom, had been making modifications. He'd pushed a code update Monday afternoon. Standard procedure except nothing at Nexus was standard anymore. The update conflicted with the compression protocol, started throwing errors, small errors at first. Latency spikes. Processing delays, the kind of issues that get explained away as temporary. By Tuesday afternoon, Crestline Investment Group called. Their CFO wanted to know why transaction processing was taking 3 times longer than usual. Sterling Healthcare Systems escalated to their legal department. Compliance issues, data processing delays, potential HIPAA concerns. Northgate Distribution put their contract under review. 3 clients. $210 million in annual revenue. Suddenly very nervous. Marcus called an emergency board meeting Tuesday evening. I heard about it through Michelle, her cousin worked in Nexus's finance department. It's chaos, she reported over the phone. Board is asking questions Marcus can't answer. He keeps saying technical issues, but nobody's buying it. What's Jordan doing? Apparently he's been in the server room for 18 hours straight trying to fix something. Nobody knows what. I knew what. He was trying to work around my algorithm, trying to find a replacement, trying to do in hours what had taken me 2 years to develop. He couldn't. The thing about proprietary algorithms, they're not just code. They're architecture. They're philosophy. They're thousands of decisions made over years, each one building on the last. You can't reverse engineer that in a panic. You can't Google your way to a solution. You either have the expertise or you don't. Jordan didn't. Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock a.m., the board demanded answers. Diana Lawson, Nexus's CEO, called me directly. I'd always respected her. She'd built the company from nothing, bootstrapped for 5 years before taking venture capital, stayed hands-off with engineering, trusted her teams. Unfortunately, she'd also trusted Marcus. Emily, her voice was strained. Tired, the voice of someone who'd been up all night. We need to talk. I'm listening. This patent situation, there's been a misunderstanding. There's been no misunderstanding, Diana. Section 7.3 is unambiguous. Section 7.3 was never meant to. It was approved by your legal team, signed by your predecessor. It means exactly what it says. Silence. What do you want? She asked finally. A licensing agreement, fair terms, how much? $2.1 million annually, 5-year guaranteed minimum. I heard her breath catch. That's 0.24% of your client revenue, I finished. Less than what you're losing in processing delays right now. I've done the math. I need to take this to the board. You have 72 hours. After that, I start conversations with Crestline Investment about alternative solutions. I'm sure they'd be interested in licensing faster processing for themselves. I wasn't bluffing. Crestline CTO had reached out to me 6 months ago about consulting work. I declined out of loyalty to Nexus. Funny how loyalty works. Emily, 72 hours, Diana, call me when you're ready. I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline. From the strange power of saying exactly what you mean and meaning exactly what you say. Michelle called that night. You okay? I think so. Nervous, terrified, but in a good way. Terrified how? I thought about it. Like I'm finally doing what I should have done years ago, like I'm finally treating myself like I'm worth protecting. She was quiet for a moment. Then, that's not terrified, Em, that's growing up. Thursday morning, 9 o'clock a.m., Diana called back. We've discussed your terms with the board. And we're prepared to offer $1.5 million annually. 3-year commitment, $1.9 million. 5 years, plus a one-time advisory fee of $200,000. Emily, I'm not negotiating with myself, Diana. I know what my work is worth. I'm offering you a discount because I spent 7 years building something I care about, but my patience has limits. Another long pause. The board is meeting in an hour. I'll have an answer by noon. I'll be here. She called at 11:47 a.m., exactly 48 hours before my deadline. We accept $1.9 million annually, 5-year minimum, $200,000 advisory fee. I noticed I was sweating from stress. I took a deep breath. I'll have my attorney draft the agreement. Emily, one more thing. Yes, Marcus Whitfield is no longer with Nexus Digital, effective immediately. I let that sink in. The man who'd called me legacy baggage. Who'd dismissed my expertise. Who'd looked down on me with his bright white shirt. Gone. I couldn't believe for a moment how easy this had been. And Jordan Reeves? Reassigned, we're bringing in someone with more experience to oversee architecture. Someone who reads documentation? She almost laughed. Someone who reads documentation. Good luck, Diana, genuinely. Thank you, Emily, for being reasonable. Reasonable. That's what it's called when you have leverage but don't destroy everything. I could have held out for more. Could have let their system crash completely. Could have watched Jordan's fixes fail and Marcus's reputation collapse in slow motion. Would you have done that if you were me? To be honest, part of me wanted to, but that part wasn't driving anymore. Strategy was. 3 weeks later, I signed the licensing agreement. $1.9 million annually. 5-year guarantee. $200,000 advisory fee. Jonathan reviewed every clause. Bulletproof, he said. Better than what most IP holders get in court. Better than court, because court is messy, expensive, uncertain. This was clean. Mathematical, the kind of outcome you get when you document everything and understand contracts. Marcus's LinkedIn updated the following Friday. VP Engineering disappeared. No replacement title. No open to work. Just silence. I heard through industry channels he'd been asked to resign. Quietly. No severance fight. The board didn't want the story getting out, didn't want people knowing they'd fired the architect who held the patent to their entire platform. Too late. It was already circulating in engineering circles. The architect who held the patent. The VP who didn't read the contract. The 12-minute firing that cost $2.1 million annually. A cautionary tale. The kind of story that gets shared in private Slack channels and whispered at industry happy hours. I saw him once, 3 months later. He was looking at store windows near Union Square. He was alone. That upright posture of his had completely disappeared. He was less confident. To be honest, I was surprised he had changed so much. He noticed my reflection in the window glass but pretended not to see. I didn't approach either. Some victories don't need witnesses. Jordan lasted 3 more months, couldn't stabilize the systems I'd built, couldn't work with the team, couldn't handle the pressure of filling a role he'd never earned. Sarah texted me updates occasionally. Jordan panic-called Amazon contacts for help. Jordan broke prod again. Jordan's sick for the 3rd day this week. Last I heard, he'd moved to a startup in Austin. Lower stakes, less complexity, more synergy conversations. Sarah, my junior engineer, got promoted. She documented everything just like I'd taught her. When the new VP needed someone who understood the codebase, she was ready. She texted me. I read my contract, found a clause about invention ownership, got it revised before signing the new offer. That felt better than the money. She'd learned the lesson I wish someone had taught me at 29. Your work has value independent of who employs you. Protect it. Document it. Own it. 6 months later, I had my own consulting firm, 4 clients, $3.2 million in annual revenue, a team of 3 engineers I'd handpicked from my network. I work from my apartment, where I've started learning to decorate with DIY projects. I even got a few plants. I set my own hours, chose my own projects. No glass-walled offices. No performance reviews. No executives who used synergy without irony. No glass walls. No 12-minute conversations that erased years of work. Nexus was still a client, $1.9 million annually. The platform ran smoothly. The algorithm processed 14 million transactions daily, just like before. Diana called occasionally. Industry events, strategy questions. The relationship had transformed from boss and employee to equals. You could have destroyed us, she said once at a conference in Chicago. I know. Why didn't you? I thought about it. Because destruction isn't the point, recognition is. I wanted you to understand what I'd built, what it was worth, what you'd thrown away without reading the contract. She nodded. We understand now. Good. I didn't need revenge. I needed respect. I got both. My name is Emily Fitzgerald. I'm a systems architect who spent 7 years building infrastructure that processes $890 million annually. The one who documented everything, who read her contracts, who understood her own worth. Here's what I learned from this process. Expertise doesn't expire with job titles. Your value isn't determined by who employs you, it's determined by what you create. They can fire you. They can eliminate your position. They can replace your title with someone cheaper, younger, more compliant. But they can't erase what you built. They can't replicate your knowledge overnight. They can't counterfeit your competence. Do you agree? Share your thoughts in the comments. The full blue file playlist's waiting, or discover other color files for more office revenge. See you in the next file.